Oh, looks like we're live. Oh, we are live. Cool. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a good weekend. And now, we're going to do a little final fight. Anyway, hold on a second. Okay. Alright. Alright, here we go. First off, sorry about that. It took a little longer than I thought to finish up dinner and a couple other things, and, well, you know. Anyway, going to do a little final fight today. So feel free to stick around and watch me just cram quarters into it this time. No technique, just me muscling my way through it because I have nothing better to do. And plus, you know, looks like it's going to be fun. Also, if you want to drop on by and have a little chat, see, I can do that too. So, well, so, what are we going to do? Excuse me. Well, we are going to start, and I think I'm just going to float around between characters and play around a bit. So, don't mind me. Let's start with the mayor. So anyway, a lot of stuff going on lately. I've got projects that I thought I'd be able to do more with, but you know, sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to, but hey, it's all good. But the one thing that is going to go on, and I guess that's probably one of the things I wanted to share with you guys, is that streaming is probably going to be one of the biggest pieces of my online thing going forward. It seems like I mean, I love playing games, and I think that it'd be fun to be able to show off me playing games and you know, a little conversation all right. I mean, it's not like it's not like you have to worry about trying to be some sort of rock star or something. It's just like, let's have some fun and hopefully be entertaining, I guess. Actually, Final Fight and I have a really, really long history. It goes back to arcades back when they were big, when they were a thing. That sucks. Alright, I can tell you, wherever there was a Final Fight machine, I was probably on it. I mean, it didn't matter if it was, you know, like a Caldors or anything like that where they had those little tiny arcades right by the cash registers, or right on the you know, right at an entrance. You walk through the double doors and there you are. You know, arcades. I mean, because it seemed like they were everywhere. Arcades and Final Fights. I can tell you, if you went anywhere and they had arcade machines, 9 chances out of 10 there was a Final Fight machine, or a Street Fighter 2 machine, or a Mortal Kombat machine. But it was really ludicrously popular. One of the other, I mean, you could. The best thing about Final Fight, with a lot of the earlier Capcom stuff, you could stick them into anything. I mean, I've seen like converted cabs that were Dungeons and Dragons before, or something other ridiculous thing, like Pac-Man. Yeah, that one was a weird one. But most of the time, stuff like Final Fight and Varth and anything CPS 1 really would be in machines like Cut Corner Dynamos. And for us in the US, Cut Corners were probably about as ubiquitous as a Astro City. But for me, it was always just the idea of seeing tons of enemies beat up one. That was always the attraction. I mean, you had stuff like Ninja Turtles or Crime Fighters. Well, there was a lot of stuff, but Final Fight was always my thing. It just had this really... It just felt like almost like a hardcore, like Marvel or DC comic book would have at the time. And when it came to Super Nintendo, when the Super Nintendo first came out, I was really happy to play it. Little did I know that the game wasn't like 100% like the arcade. I mean, it was fewer frames of everything. They edited out a lot of stuff. You know, 2 of the characters were changed from girls to guys, among other things. What else did it do? Oh yeah. The opening, the title opening, they changed the way Hagar's daughter Jessica looked. But you know, at the time, it was what I had to play, so I played it. And it was just crazy how long Final Fight endured. It really was. Even when CPS 2 and 3 stuff came out, you would always still find a Final Fight machine. Skating rink, bowling alley, just... Let's go with Cody. Just anywhere really. Final Fight was kind of like a go-to. I guess if you would have to say, Final Fight was kind of like comfort. If you didn't play fighting games, you were playing Final Fight or Ninja Turtles or The Simpsons. Or probably less likely, if you could get your hands on it, something like well, one of the arcades I was at had what did it have there? Oh, it had Battletoads. Yeah. Honest to gosh, it was a 3-man machine that had Battletoads. And then there was another joint that I frequented. It had this game called B-Rap Boys. B-Rap Boys was really cool because it had a hip-hop soundtrack, like an honest-to-good hip-hop soundtrack, not beep boop boop boop. It was like literally a voiced soundtrack. Guys singing the whole 9, well, not singing, rapping, but the whole 9 yards. And in fact, it was a group called 3 Stories High, and they were actually, and this one's a wild story all on its own, they were actually group of American dudes that were touring Japan, rap in Japan in like the 90s, if you could believe it. It was really cool. And in fact, if you look around on the tube, you will find, come on, if you look around on the tube, there we go, that's, come on, there we go. If you look around on the tube, look for Al Anonymous. He actually got his hands on an extended play that was put out by 3 Stories High, and it had most of the music from it was most of the music from B-Rap Boys. It wasn't like an official soundtrack per se, because it didn't have any of the stuff like the logos for the game characters, or even the company that made it, Kaneko. It didn't have the logo on it, but it was the music from the game, which was really cool. And I remember when he posted it up on Twitter about it, I almost lost my mind, because it was something that I had known about and had always played for years, but I could never get my hands on it. In fact, I could never even get my hands on an arcade board for the longest time. And I had wanted it ever since I found the game that came before, a game called DJ Boy. And DJ Boy, I believe, was kind of weird as well, because it had actual DJ voiceover work from, I think, Wolfman Jack? I think it was. I tell you, man, a lot of people think video games are just this, just beep boop boop. No, like arcade stuff, really honest to God, hardcore deliciousness. Time's off. Really off. It's kind of hilarious. All this, no. Final Fight, you would think as much as I played Final Fight, I would still have muscle memory from the bosses and stuff like that, but I really don't. But there are a couple of guys that I do know of that are so hardcore with Final Fight. They do 1cc's like it's nothing. There we go. It's amazing stuff, and there's a couple of guys, and I think when I get this thing cleaned up a little and repost it, I'll add some links to a couple of people that I know of that are really good at Final Fight beyond what I can do. And I'll even, if I can find it, post the link to the video for 3 Stories High as well. Trust me, it's stuff that I like it, it's cool, but you know, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Well, but what is? And for me, this is not my cup of tea. Not Final Fight. I mean, because I've got stuff running through wireless, I don't have a port to hook the HRAP up to, which is what I would normally use. I would prefer to use the HRAP, but it's either the HRAP or have my mic. And since I don't have a non-PS4 setup yet, this is what we'll get. I will tell you, let's see, this would put me at 2 continues, so this would put me at 50 cents. If I really wanted to be hardcore about it, and I would play this with what I had in my pockets from the arcade, if I wasn't trying to get into Street Fighter 2 or Mortal Kombat, which was a 50 center, then I would continue playing this. I usually had about $3-4 in my pocket. So let's see, just out of curiosity, where $4 gets me. I'll probably quarter dump this until I beat it, but let's see what $4 gets me. It's probably going to get me pretty far because I've never played a Final Fight machine that was a 50 cent. Most of the beat 'em up games that I have played, Capcom, Konami, or otherwise, were always one quarter play, 1 quarter continue. Most of the Street Fighter machines and fighting game machines I played, except for Neo Geo MVS stuff, was all 50 cents per play. A couple of them were actually set to 50 cents to buy in and 25 cents to continue, but that was really, guy's a glass cannon. And in fact, I think for a very brief period, Alien vs. Predator was a 50 center. Speaking of, I wonder if this is actually in the collection. Usually I play Final Fight on the collection if I'm not playing it on the 1-up. I mean, I tell you, as far as Capcom stuff goes, AVP is another really solid beat 'em up. It gets a little dicey at times because of how many enemies are on screen, but it's definitely a fun play. And all 4 characters, despite being very different playstyles, really balanced and really fun to play with. Alright, let's see if I can do this. Oh, no! Oh, come on. Now, normally, if you do it right, down. Alright. This is one of those areas where crowd control is really important. You time it right, you throw the Ondors in one corner, take a pipe, and you time your strikes with them getting up. Or you could do it the dirt cheap way, which is the like 1, 2, 3, turn, 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 until, you know, and just punch loop them until they die. Okay, so we're now at $1. Oh. I'm still playing, and I don't have anyone yelling at me yet. Come on, it's time to go! I don't know if anyone had, back in those days, hadn't heard that. That was... There we go. Nice. Delgados are really stupid. There we go. Yeah. I think this is set to standard 1-up, which is 50k and every 100k after. Even now, Final Fight is still a really amazing piece of work. I was looking at some stuff a while back with Final Fight, and just the way they crammed stuff in here. Alright, he's gotta go. This is where this is. There we go. Oh, come on. This is another one. If Eddie gets loose, I'm screwed. Shell. See? Oh! That's another one with Eddie. Kind of can't let him get free because that happens. Okay. Quarter 25. There we go. This isn't bonus stage 2. I think bonus stage 2 will come after industrial area. Now, for those who are keen-eyed, stage 2's boss was also in Street Fighter Alpha. All three of them, actually. Stupid weeboo name, and yeah, they did change it. That was the other thing they named. They changed his name from Saddam in the arcade to Katana for the SNES release of that. This was also the area that was cut out of the SNES release, but it was in the Sega CD release. 150. I think $2 will probably get us to not even to Roulette. It'll probably get me to the door leading to the elevator, because I'm probably going to not see like that. This is a really hairy area, and we're free. I mean, one of the really cool things about this is how many enemies can be on here, and it doesn't slow down. I don't think, as long as I've played Final Fight, if it's ever slowed down, even when it tops out with enemies. I think it would slow down if it was not just enemies, but objects and stuff like that, probably. And I think it would do it on the last stage with boss, because man, you have fire bombs, knives, crossbow bolts, Jessica, you have just like so much crap on screen at once. I think that's when it actually started to slow down. So we're at a buck 50, I think. There we go. Alright, right. Yeah, this is probably where I would tap out on the oh, lucky. Wait a minute, 70. Alright. I think once I'm done with this, I want to take a look and see what the settings are for extends, extra men. Because I thought this was set to... Okay, so this might be set to 50, 70, 100k, 100k. That was the other thing. If you look at if you ever look at the way the arcade machines are set up, you can go into the dip switch settings, which are basically for a home console game would be like the option setting for the game. You can set how many lives you start with, how many what it takes to get an extend. Okay, so we're at 175. Stay ah, come on. Yeah. This does get to be a dicey one because of how many enemies are on board, and I think they do drop randomly in too. Oh, come on, Roland. I'll be dipped. That's pretty cool. We actually got the two, we actually got the $2. There we go. $2. I thought we wouldn't make the elevator, but we did. Alright. This is a ball buster right here. A really, really stupid ball buster. This ball buster. This is another game that I'm gonna have to start putting back in rotation. Come on. Are you gonna get up? No. So we're at 8. So we're at $2. I think 8 will. I think this will probably take us up to the end of the park. Is that the end? Yes. 100, 100, 100. Well, if the next extend is 100K, we are not going to make that. Unless we play this very gently. Which I don't think is going to happen. This is not good. Yeah, this is really uncomfortable. I need to figure out how to get this set up back to being able to use my HRAC. This is so 80s it hurts, but there we go. Now, oh, I did it! Cool! Now, the one thing I am happy about is the, what you saw me just do was like a really modified version of punch looping. And pretty much all you do is you take 2 or 3 hits, and before he does the uppercut, which is his finishing blow, you turn away and resets. But you have to be really quick, and I don't like the way this controller feels, so quick enough. There we go. That's the other thing. This little guy right here. This little guy shows up in a lot of different Capcom games. You just have to know where to look for him. Just like Moby-chan does too. Like Capcom, like that's the other thing. Capcom has stuff like certain things that show up, just show up in random games. That's always their hallmarks. Like Moby-chan. God, I can't remember where Moby-chan came from. Which is this little robot. The Yashichi, which looks like a windmill. And the Yashichi shows up in Mega Man. It's also in UN Squad. This is a big point item. And Mega Man, it did some other stuff. But and the little white dog here was another one. Like you could play. I think it showed up in Final Fight 2 and Final Fight 3. I know it showed up in Street Fighter 0. There we go. Pick up the pipe, which is our usual toy. Oh, messed that one up because I need that food to stay alive. It's not food, it's gold. Alright, see, Ondors were another thing. But the problem is, if you weren't right with the pipe, the Ondors would slip through and just jab you to death. I'm gonna have to cheese ball this one because... Oh! You see, that's another thing. You can't do clutch. You can never be clutch because every time you try to do something and clutch it, that's the one thing that I can tell you my senses have gotten dull. Like if this were an arcade setting, I'd be pulling off snap jump kicks, backflips like this, and my punch loops would be easy. And one thing you heard me talk about this before was crowd control, which is pretty much throwing enemies, putting all your enemies on the same plane and on one side because you don't want to get boxed in. Because one thing Final Fight can be is extremely cheap, and it'll let enemies get multiple dirty shots in. Like the Delgados are famous for it. Like that. That's that one. Them throwing the knives, them doing the slides. And it's crazy because it's one of those things where in Final Fight you'll always be on the edge of cracking a code with the patterns and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they get loose with you and you're dead. Okay, we're at the halfway point. We're at the and we've spent 250 so far. Hagar and the pipe, two things that we never... That was the other thing, Hagar had an ungodly reach. Hagar has this like ludicrously absurd reach. Not just with the pipe, but with grabs. See, look at that. See, that's one of the things I like is a good Hagar is absolutely a brick shit house. And, excuse my French, but he really is a brick shit house. And these are another ones. The 2Ps and Js are really sneaky too. See how you just see what I was talking about? How they just if you don't do it right, they'll slip in like that. Okay, one thing I do know is not on is the extra joy, because some Final Fight machines were not 2-button, they were 3-button, and you could set your get out of jail free card to one was always on the 3rd button. No food there. No food there. I think we're probably going to top out. Is this? Yeah. I think we're one stage before the end. See? Okay, this is another thing I like doing because chicken takes me back to full health. You spam it. There's nothing like it once you start spamming. And this is, again, the cheapness. Gosh dang it. We got a good run in with Haggar. Let's keep... That's a, yeah. And another thing about Haggar is he can't fight with knives like Cody does, who has, which, like Cody has a whole, like if Cody picks up the knife, he's deadly with it. He can use it multiple times as a standard weapon. Whereas Haggar, if he picks it up, he throws it. A hell of a projectile, but it's a waste when you can fight with it. But it's a one-hit kill on some of the weaker people. And it's absolutely goofy how some of these guys have no health bar, but they tank your damage. Now, so we're in $3 territory now. And I can tell you the one thing that about arcade play is it's just like anything else. Once you get good enough, you don't waste much money, but that's probably the point. The better you get, the farther your money goes. Unless you do like some of us used to do and just slum through it. We look for, check the machines to see if anyone had quarters that just didn't go into the machine. Like, those mechs, depending on the machine, if the mechs were worn, sometimes you would drop the quarter in and it would just pop right back out. And there was another thing we used to do. Man, let me tell you, we were slumming on those machines. You could, there were a couple of machines at the, was it Fun and Games? I think it was Fun and Games, where we were able to drop like you could go in and you could slip your hand down, like pop the joysticks open, and just like literally slip your hand down and and flip the coin switch a couple times. Not all machines were like that, but the arcade I was at, one of my main ones when I was younger, we had a couple machines like that, and they were mainly done for ease of service. Because if you had a machine that was making you a lot of money and it just went down, you really needed with bad buttons or something, you really needed to get that sucker back up as soon as possible. Because dude, back in the day, arcades were like real money makers. I mean, even in Japan, I'm not going to use the Japan analogy, I just am not. There we go, he's down. So, but, like, when I was really hardcore going, the fighting games were always the things. There was of course, there was your Street Fighter 2s, the Fatal Furies. Sam Show 3 and 4 were really, like, they were definite, at least at the places I was going, they were definitely money earners. One of my buddies, dude whose name escapes me, he had like somewhere around like a 57, 58 win streak in Sam Show 4 with Basara. And it was crazy because he would do he would switch back and forth from some really sneaky tricks and to some he would use spacing and combos, and then he would all of a sudden start busting out some really weird stuff that you could do with Basara. I tell you, those were the days. A lot of people were like, well, you should understand why you guys were there. You could be outside playing football. Well, that was our playground. Legit, that was our playground. We would sit there for hours playing different games, and it was our turf. It was our turf. It wasn't like we were gangs or anything like that. Like we would go fighting and robbing people or anything like that. It was a bunch of kids and some older teens and a couple of 20-somethings there. That was our turf. We thought we were the baddest team on God's green. We would play and play and play, and anyone that wanted to get on a machine, they could. But if they couldn't keep with us, they couldn't keep with us. And then there was the time there were dudes coming from out-of-towners that came through, and that was a wild one. That was back during the Versus days. That was when X-Men Versus came out. So I forgot the team that the dude used, but I do remember his Chun-Li. His buttons for his Chuns was absolutely nightmarish, and he was canceling and then linking in some hinky shit, but his Chun-Li would bleed your life like crazy. And he was lighting up all of our heavyweights, every single one of them. All our heavies were getting taken down one after another, and when they started to understand what he was doing and they beat him, man, that was a wild one. That was 110% one of the wildest things I'd ever seen. Like, all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose when these dudes came. They were three dudes. And they didn't look the same, but they were built the same. They were three skinny dudes. And then there was and I remember there were a couple of us that were just pure specialists. Like there was Gary, who was an absolute beast on KI2. He would just do KI2 runs. He usually used the girls, like Orchid and Maya were his two mains, but he could pick up any character in KI and do ultras all day. And I'm not talking like Like he would do the system ones where you know, where you did the right sequences and you would get auto dunk, auto devils, and like a lot of free hits and stuff like that. But he was also raw. He could do the raw combos too, and it was like I can remember his buttons, just hearing them, and it was like the mechanical click 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 click. It was just one of those things where that guy was good. I kid you not. If you want to hear how good someone is, listen to their buttons. Period. You don't have to physically watch someone. You just have to hear their buttons. Like next time you're at a tournament, listen to their buttons. I mean, now a lot of guys are using silent sandwas, and that's something I don't want to use. It's just because I'm such a, I need the touch. It's not just the touch. To hear the click of the sandwas and the segments, it's just the mechanical sounds of the switches. And, oh, there's no sound like it. And when someone's on their stuff and they're playing right and they're good, there's a rhythm to it. Like with Gary. And I that was the one thing that stood out about Gary. Besides a couple other things that will remain nameless, but I looked at it as it was Gary. That was what it was. But like, and Gary was one of our heavies. Me, I could play almost anything. But let's see, if it were Fatal Fury, and I think at the time I was doing Fatal Fury Real Bout and Real Bout Special. Terry, Billy Kane, Krauser, Jin Chan Shu and Jin Chan Ray. Those were usually my guys. Mai too, to a certain extent, because Mai had some really outstanding but basic stuff. Let's see. Street Fighters, Ken was always a standard, but I think when 3 came out, that's when I started switching to using Alex. And not everyone likes Alex, but Alex has always been my dude, because Alex was like, he was an anti-grappler. I think the term that a lot of that was being thrown around with Alex at the time was hybrid, and it was because he had flash chop, which was like almost like Geef's blue hand, and it would neutralize projectiles. But Alex was more light on his feet and more nimble than Geef was. But that was my guy for 3. For let's see, for KOF, 3 Treasures was one team for me. Clark Steele, Iori, and Terry was another team. Pretty basic stuff. Samurai Spirits. Master taught me how to use Wan Fu. There's a dude. He told me his name a bunch of times, but I always called him. Always called him, and it was a joke. I always called him Master because it was like he was like the best with Wan Fu, and he was like bar none to me one of the best, if not the best, Samurai Showdown player I had ever met. He taught me how to use Wan Fu, and even though I could use virtually anyone on the roster with Samurai Showdown, I chose Genan because Genan reminded me very much of Wan Fu, a very limited, oddball character for a limited set playlist. Difference was, Wan Fu could pull massive damage if done right, and he could be a brute zoner. which was the way Master played it. But I would also play Ganon, and my Ganon was very oppressive. My Ganon relied more on timing, because my Ganon used there was a lot of stuff that I did with Ganon was contingent on wake-ups, like his grab. I would plink hits when people by timing his slides for when people got up, or his poison mist with when people got up. It was doing that with Ganon was one of those things where you could literally choke someone out. You could drown someone with Ganon, because if you could get the timing down. Ganon was someone that you could play keep away with. You could cheese ball. They called it cheese balling, but Ganon was someone that you could oppress without being overbearing. That was just amazing. Let's see, what else was I in for? I think when I played World Heroes, they were playing a lot of different characters with World Heroes, but I only played Hanzo and Fuma, mainly because they were as easy as Ryu can for me. So using them, it was easy to get into the game, but I never dug that far, at least back in those days, with the meta of using other characters. What else were we playing back then? See, I remember they had War Gods for a while. Mortal Kombat, a lot of people were playing Mortal Kombat. It wasn't that I hated Mortal Kombat, but it felt too slow for me. It was a great looking game, but Mortal Kombat felt too slow until it got to Mortal Kombat 3, and then Mortal Kombat 3 became more combo heavy, but then it got weird at certain points. So offhand, I can really say I don't think there was anything I was good at with Mortal Kombat. Okay, we've been at this for almost an hour. Guess where we are now. And that's another thing. The hitboxes sometimes don't work in your favor. Look at it. So we are deep in the $3 territory. I would even say we're probably at, watch it. Every one of these barrels has like some sort of trinket behind it. Here's a nugget for you that I always thought was weird, but maybe it was because of the branding at the time. This game was the first one of the first Capcom games that I recall that didn't have Romstar branding. Well, Romstar was like a localization outfit, I guess you could say. Romstar would bring a lot of different stuff in. And I think they were the ones that were localizing stuff before Capcom got really serious with their efforts. So I think I really would like to do research on that part because I know there's I know, or at least I thought I knew most of the information, like the stories behind it, not like that was a and here we go, there's another one. And there's another one. I think in the SNES version there's something you would go underneath and behind and then it was more food. There we go. So alright, yeah, this is gonna be a pain in the butt. There's Jessica. Interesting thing. Belgar does show up again. He actually shows up in Final Fight Streetwise as a boss. Ah! Yeah, it's like that. There we go. There we go. Look at that. 1 hour. 1 hour. 1 hour. 1 freaking hour. Not a bad thing. Not bad at all. Not gonna lie. That was fantastic. Ah, not what I wanted. But, you know, goal met. So, I think one loop was all I wanted to do, and I'm happy with that. And this is like probably, since I started doing the voice one so far, this is probably my favorite one. This is 100% one of my favorite streams that I've done. I think we're gonna have to do this again, because sorry, I'm just really happy because this was a cool stream. I got to reminisce, and I got to play a game that was kind of responsible for a lot of my memories back in the day when I was running arcades. So, honestly, truly, seriously, thank you. Thank you for joining me for Final Fight. I know that I said I was going to have something else to talk about, but because I spent most of the stream talking about Final Fight, I didn't get a chance to get to it. But, you know, it doesn't matter. It's fine. So, what happens now? Well, Final Fight is done. There's not much else I can do right now. But I'm going to say probably in the summer I'm going to start working in earnest on getting back into Final Fight shape. Maybe even leading up to a 1cc run. But we'll leave that for the future. What's going to happen? Probably I got another stream in me. So I'm probably going to jump back on my Horizon Zero Dawn grind. And that will probably happen around 9:30, which is in about half an hour. And I'm doing that because I kind of need to get my button gear. Horizon Zero Dawn comes out Friday, and because of prior commitments, I won't be able to do a day one on it. So probably Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be going hard at Horizon Zero Dawn. Rather, Forbidden West. Will we get it clear in 2 days? Don't know. But I do know we're going to we're going to start streaming Horizon Zero Dawn from first playthrough. Alright? And there's some stuff I think, because I didn't get to it now, we'll get to it over Horizon Zero Dawn, because there's a couple things that I'm going to talk about that are going to be really cool. So, I'll see you then. Alright?